Hi there, this is a brief video about my Honda Jazz 2006. Had a really loud engine noise. Just developed one day coming back on the motorway. Took it to the garage. He said the engine was dead, which I didn't believe because Jazzes are pretty understressed. Anyway, turns out with a bit of listening that it is this item here. That is the air conditioning pulley and the clutch. And the problem was the pulley on the pulley bearing had seized. It was making a horrible noise. So in order to mend this, you've got to get the wheel off, jack the car up, undo this inner skirt, take off, there's another tray plastic insert there, and get that out of the way. This is a 13mm bolt that just undoes. You need to hold this bit still and undo that. And basically, so this is the part that I bought. So you undo this, that comes off, then the clutch plate pulls out, and underneath there you've got a few of these. This just had one. It's a spacer which makes the clutch just sit the right amount away from the pulley, so don't lose those. Okay, and then there's a circlip inside that needs to come off, so I had to buy a pair of circlip pliers. So that came out, and then the pulley comes off. Now the pulley looks like this, but to get it off I did have to buy a 150mm or 6-inch pulley lever removal tool. So when that comes off, that's the bearing. The bearing number, it's an NSK Japan, that's the original bearing, and it is 35BD219DUM. It's about £10 on eBay. But as you can see, there's little marks to keep it in, so rather than mess around punching that out, I bought another unit. This was 20 quid posted, and the bearing is pretty good in that. So the magnets, a bit awkward. You've got to take another circlip off, and then you'll need the bearing pulley tool again. But this is where it got a bit awkward. To get to that little 8mm spanner and pull this wire off, you've got to get that off and get that out. Also, you need to undo that little screw that clamps that on. I couldn't do it, so I just levered the thing up. But that is all in there. So I had to remove the air conditioning pump, which you can just see is there. So there's 4 12mm bolts on that, and then luckily these hoses are loose. But in order to get to that clutch pulley, you've got to get this belt off, which is where it gets a bit awkward as well. So to get the alternator loose, you have to undo. There's the tensioner. There's a tensioner bolt, and then there's 2 bolts holding this bracket on, and that's a 10mm. So you need to undo this arm basically. And there's also a really awkward bolt to get to on the alternator. It's just there. Hang on, I can't see, hang on. Okay, the bolt on the alternator on the bottom is that one there. You can just see I'm pointing at it. That is a 12, and you've got to get a long extension on there and just crack that just to loosen the bottom of the alternator, because it pivots on that. That was pretty awkward, but once it's loose, it was easy. So I've got it all back together now, and when you start the car, so with the engine running, the pulley now is nice and quiet. It's making a terrible noise before. So this is the pulley, and it doesn't even spin. It's absolutely seized up. You can see it's started to disintegrate, so that wasn't even spinning. But this is the clutch plate, and when you press the air conditioning button, I'll just run in and press that. It now spins, and all keep spinning until the air conditioning's done what it needs to do, and then it will click in and out as it needs it. And that is basically how to sort out a really noisy pulley problem. The garage I took it to told me the engine was dead, so for less than £50, parts and some tools, I've managed to get the Jazz back on the road. Also put a new exhaust on. I haven't quite finished putting that on, the heat shield's rattling, but basically the Jazz is back in action. New belt, happy days.